to the back of the connector, and we're going to write down this wire, which is this white, to your ECU, and then your ECU uses that information along with all the other inputs from your other sensors to do things like adjust ignition timing and also adjust your fuel injectors and other components that help your engine run smooth. Alright, so if we're going to be testing our throttle position sensor without a wiring diagram, so we need to figure out which one of these wires does what exactly. So the first thing we want to do is to get in our car and then turn the key to the on position without turning on the engine. This way the ECU will send ground and voltage to the throttle position sensor. Alright, next we'll remove our connector. Next we get our multimeter, turn it on, and put our settings on 20 volts DC. Since we don't expect to measure anything above 5 volts, the next one up on the settings scale on our multimeter will do, which in our case is 20. Next we'll ground our black test lead. And then we're going to test each wire for voltage. And the one that gives us 5 volts, we're going to write down as our constant voltage supply wire. So here's the first one, nothing. Second one, nothing. And the last one, there we go, we got 5 volts. So we're going to go to the back of the connector, and we're going to write down this wire, which is this white and brown wire, as our constant voltage supply wire. Alright, so next we're going to find our ground wire, and we do that by measuring resistance from the 2 remaining pins to ground. So we get our multimeter, turn our settings back to ohms, and I'm going to choose this last setting, which will not only give us a reading, but also sound a beep when we have ground. Okay, next we're going to test the 2 remaining wires, and you want to make sure you don't test the last wire, which was our constant wire. It's not a good idea to test the resistance of a hot wire. You could either damage the wire or your multimeter. Okay, so let's try the first one. Oh, there we go. First try, we got it. So we found our constant ground wire, which is this guy, and our constant voltage supply wire, which is this one. So the middle one has to be our signal wire. Alright, so next we're going to check our throttle position sensor for its voltage output. So first we're going to reattach your connector, and then go to our multimeter and put the settings back to 20 volts. Okay, so next we're going to back probe our signal wire and our ground wire. And in my opinion, paper clips will work great for back probing these connectors. Just make sure you get them in all the way and you make good contact. And next I'm going to use these alligator clips attached to my test leads to connect to the back of these wires. So first our signal wire. But before I attach my ground wire, I should say that this car is supposed to have 1 volt at idle coming out of the throttle position sensor. And since the key is already in the on position and we have power supplied to this throttle position sensor, and the throttle plate is always all the way closed like you would have it at idle, we should have 1 volt here once I attach to this. There we go, and we got 0.95, which is pretty close to 1 volt. Alright, so next we're going to go from closed throttle or idle, which is where we are right now, to wide open throttle. So I'm going to do this manually, I'm going to do this slowly, and what you want to look for is a steady increase in our voltage reading. You don't want to see it to jump around, you don't want to see it to go down, then up. You just want to see it go up smoothly and steadily. And then on the way down, you want to see a decrease in the same manner. Alright, here we go. I'll try to go kind of fast, but alright, we're at wide open throttle and we got 4.6 volts. So now we're going to go back down, and you want to make sure again this goes down steadily. It doesn't jump around and goes down nice and smooth. There you have it. Alright, great. So as you saw, a throttle position sensor can supply voltage, and as the throttle plate opened, the voltage supplied steadily increased, and as it closed, the voltage supply steadily decreased. And that's what you want to see from a good throttle position sensor. Alright, now on to the second test, which is trying to simulate how the engine is shaking around while the car is running. Because you could have a throttle position sensor that can supply voltage properly under these circumstances with the engine off, but once you turn on the engine and everything is moving around and rattling around, it might have a problem doing this in a proper, steady, and constant manner. So what we're going to do is try to just simulate a moving engine by just tapping on this sensor with an end of, let's say, a screwdriver, and then opening a throttle plate and then closing it. Okay, I'll try to do this a little bit faster so you guys don't get bored. Okay, so we made it back to 4.6, and as I tap on it, it doesn't move, So now we're going to go back down.